everyone, and welcome once again to the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Gina Horan. Today, we have a good one. I'm so excited. Today in studio, we have Chef Louis Santiago. Now, not only, Chef Louis, are you a friend of the podcast, but you're a contributor to our Healthy Living magazine. Welcome.
Hello, Gina. How you doing today?
I'm very, very well. So I'm so excited to have you here because this concept of eat this, not that has been a favorite of mine for a really long time. I feel like with tiny tweaks, you can, change a menu just a little bit and then approach a healthier lifestyle through nutrition. So before we get into food and all the nutrition, I would love to know a little bit about you. Tell us about how you started chefing and your background, and then how it sort of morphed into chef and nutrition.
Well, so we're from Rochester, New York originally, me and my wife, Danielle. And I met a gentleman through a friend who went to the Culinary Institute of America. He was working at an assisted living facility. And while I was there, we'd walk in and, maybe get a little snack to eat to go say hi. I saw him creating fresh food for all of these people in this facility, and it really piqued my interest. So I started working for him voluntarily a couple days a month. And he got me gave me more background information, which led me to come to Florida, which I had family in Florida. In South Florida, I went to the Art Institute, enrolled in the Art Institute, went to their culinary program for 18 months and got my associate's degree in science with a minor in culinary arts. While I was there, I worked in a few nice restaurants. One of them was under a nice chef who's actually, his dad was an instructor at the CIA in Hyde Park, New York. So worked for him for a year and a half while I lived in South Florida. Learned a lot about Floridian cuisine, learned a lot about using ingredients indigenous to our South Florida area, a lot of different fishes, spices, and we also did some fusion cuisine. Fusion cuisine being we take other cultures and just kind of adapted them to the ingredients we had available. So it was a lot of fun, a lot of hands-on, a lot of different exposure. And we created food there at such a high level. And our preparations were spot on. A lot of the preparations and premises that I learned in culinary school. So I got a lot of growing experience through there. And then we traveled to Central Florida. My wife had family. We decided to visit, and then we pivoted and moved. I worked at Disney. I worked at the Grand Floridian at Victoria and Albert's. Victoria and Albert's is a French restaurant in Disney, Four Diamond.
Wow.
Yeah, Four Diamond. Absolutely
As in
exquisite.
Victoria and Albert, Queen Victoria and Prince Albert.
Absolutely. It's butler-style service.
Okay.
So you would have literally two, they call them butlers, but you
Sure.
would have two servers taking care of you at one table. But it is a 7-course process. So you're not going to just walk in.
Was it a prefix type of situation?
It's a prefix. You have 3 different menus you could choose from, which would be like their regular, their premium, and then, of course, if you're a vegetarian, the chef would put something together, 7 different courses. So we everything was, of course, smaller portion, but the food we were using, he was importing mushrooms from France. He was importing olive oils from Italy. I mean, the ingredients I saw there, I would never have dreamed of being able to touch.
So this exposure allowed you to, to see all kinds of ingredients from all over the world, and probably got your mind going a little bit about like what you'd love to do someday. And let's back up a little bit though. Floridian, is that Florida, Caribbean, or Cuban, or all the mixes? Or talk about that, because there's so much freshness in that cuisine. And I want to get back to, of course, you're in Orlando, but talk about the freshness, because that really translates obviously into nutrition. So, and how the background is for that.
So Floridian cuisine is going to be another fusion style cuisine created by chefs from South Florida. And what they did is they would take Cuban, Jamaican, South American cuisines. And then, of course, some of those bled into Florida as well over the years with the cultural exchange. They would come into we would take those ingredients and just create dishes, So we would take, say, Caribbean jerk and infuse citruses and make a citrus jerk or a papaya jerk. Guava jerk glaze, one of my favorites, over fresh snapper, which is fished here in South Florida, is one of the dishes that I created when I was young that inspired me, that made me believe that I can really do this and I can grow with this.
So that's your background, that cuisine, and then you go to Disney and you learn probably from one of the best, because obviously Disney's only going to hire people that are worthy of that position. So talk about more things that you learned in the back of the house, how to prep, how to buy, and how that translated to the front of the house.
Well, so eventually I moved on to becoming a chef, and I worked for the Villages for many years.
In what capacity?
So what originally started as I met a friend and I got a job working for catering for about 2.5 months. And then at the time, the Villages was going through a renaissance where they were opening country clubs, getting the golf courses built, getting the country clubs open on the property, selling real estate, of course, because that's what their main focus is. And they needed people who were capable of running a big facility, leading a group of people, having them follow common guidelines to reach a goal of creating hospitality for the guests of the Villages at their country clubs, making them feel as if that country club was their own home and kitchen.
So your corporate background obviously was very important in this, capacity.
Yeah, very, very. I learned a lot about. Never worked at a place where you would see someone come in Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They basically, them by their first name. You know what drink to put in front of them. It gave to me hospitality another perspective. It was so. it was so cool to work there, because not only did I get to take care of people on a regular basis, and the best satisfaction to a chef, people could tell you your food is good, but when they come back, that's the biggest compliment. And I've said that many times over.
Absolutely, because probably at a big corporate place at Disney, it's all transitional, which is great. But you transition over here now to the Villages. People have moved here. People, want that hospitality. They want to get to know you, and of course, every day. Absolutely. So then you transition to Chef's Concept Kitchen. Let's talk about that a little bit and why that was important for you.
So I've been with my wife for 31 years as of today, and
what? I love Danielle.
Yeah, Danielle Santiago is an amazing individual. She's, I know it's cliche, but everyone says behind every great man is a great woman, and there's no doubt about that. I wouldn't be the person I am today without her.
And she owns Ageless Beauty Med Spa, correct, here in Leesburg. And then you have Chef Concept Kitchen inside there. So you two work together to help people, with their goals, nutrition goals and med goals and beauty goals. Right? Is that correct?
We work on taking people and transitioning their lifestyle, because for Danielle, she started out after we had our second child. She was peaking at almost 300 pounds, so, and it came to a point where she just said, and I could see it in her face, I'm done. She's tried fad diets. She tried to get, and she did have the knack for working out, but wasn't fully dedicated. She worked out from time to time, but wasn't as consistent as she needed to be at the time. She hit a breaking point where she was just done. So we revamped her diet. She focused more on physical working out. She would work out 5 and 6 sessions a week. So
she needed to jumpstart really, and it worked.
Yes.
And she's tiny. She's what, 5'1". So, and I've seen. She's absolutely stunning. So we could tell that your work, pays off, and it's half nutrition, half working out, and then what she does at Ageless Beauty.
Yeah, you can't You can't. You can out eat a good workout. So that was the thing that she needed to focus on. She reduced how much she ate, and we just revamped the plates, focusing more on protein, focusing more on low glycemic, focusing more on lower carbs. So we did that for a few years. Now, of course, just like anybody, we have our cheat days because you don't want to totally neglect what you love, and we love food. There's no doubt about it.
Who doesn't? That's why we're here.
Yes. and so, but being consistent is more important. It's most important, and that's what we focused on. And it worked. It took 8-9 years to where she is today, but that's okay.
Well, because it's really a journey. It's not about, 3 months from now or 6 months from now. It's just like click lifestyle, which is awesome. So, Louis, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about shopping and the awesome food that you make.
All right.
When we come back, don't go anywhere, everyone. Back with Chef Louis in just a minute.
Is pain or restricted range of motion keeping you on the sidelines? Get back in the game with expert orthopedic care from UF Health Medical Group Orthopedics. UF Health Medical Group Orthopedics provides robotic-assisted surgical joint repairs and replacements, post-operative care, and inpatient rehabilitation services, all close to home, right here in Lake and Sumter counties. And for those unexpected injuries, UF Health Medical Group Orthopedics offers convenient walk-in and same-day appointments. To learn more or to schedule an appointment with one of their specialists, call 352-323-5665.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm Gina Horan here with Chef Louis Santiago. Chef Louis, you are with Chef's Concept Kitchen in Leesburg, and I'd really love to talk about nutrition now. You write a column, each quarter for Healthy Living magazine, which is my favorite, and one of the reasons is that it's something that we can do. I can follow your lead, and I can shop, and I can cook based on what you say with tiny tweaks. For example, instead of rice, you use cauliflower rice, which is a little more protein, a little less starch, and so you can kind of tweak your menu in order to have better nutrition no matter what you're doing. And of course, that's the food that fuels us, or vice versa. And that's what we love when it comes to healthy living. So, but first, before you start cooking, you have to shop. Now, in Central Florida and around Lake Sumter and Marion counties, we have a ton of farms and outdoor grocery stands. So that might be the optimum. What would you do if you're going to go, let's say, shop for some produce? What would you pick out, and how would you start doing that?
So, I use more of the commercial because of convenience.
Okay.
So and I think that's what a lot of people will do. There are some small farms. When it comes to maybe, like I have something coming up where I'm going to use microgreens. We do have local producers of microgreens that are available.
Well, let's just say the optimum. I'm driving around and it's all fresh from a farm. Would you pick out, some produce just from there if you have the optimum? Obviously, most of us have to go to the grocery store every day, but let's just say it's Sunday and you're driving around and, you want to go. Would you pick out fresh produce or anything that they have? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's always some, when you go to a farmer's market, there's always some nice picks, peppers, tomatoes, corn, seasonal. Seasonality has taken a turn over the last 20 years, being in the business. There used to be a time where you could mainly get certain items from certain areas, but now with how transient everything is, the ability to get something in the next day or two, you can pretty much get fruits and vegetables from the West Coast or from South America, for instance, in a snap. But local is best because when it comes out of the ground, that's when it's packed with the most nutrients that are going to benefit you. As the shelf life goes along, those will decrease.
So, for example, like your peach from, Georgia or California or wherever, it goes on a truck, then it goes in a box, and it goes on the shelf. So ultimately, it'd be great to have it right next door, picking off the tree. But for most of us, we have to get in our car and go to the parking lot and go into a store. So what's the first thing that you look for when you're picking out produce?
So I look for freshness. I look for no blemishes. You'll see me at the store, especially with fruits, picking them up and smelling them. I mean, I like to smell. And checking the like pineapples. I check the fronds to make sure they're not overly loose or too tight within.
What about bananas? You go green bananas, or do you go regular? Or
it depends who I'm buying them for. At our house, we have people who like them firmer, and of course, I like them on the sweeter side because I have that sweet tooth. But I'm always looking for peak ripeness, especially for something that I'm going to cook within a day or two. You want to check, make sure there's no mold or anything like that. That's extreme, but yet there's from time to time. The firmness. I've almost had my hand slapped at some of the markets because I would take something and squeeze it, and they say, "Don't squeeze it, you're gonna bruise it." Because I'm,
right.
I'm not trying to crush it. I'm just trying to see how firm that avocado is, for instance, or and then the little connection and the little root at the top. I was telling my daughter this weekend we were buying avocados. Check to see how loose it is. If it's fairly loose and it feels a little bit, it gives a little, the avocado's ready to go.
Awesome.
Things like that.
That's a lot of vitamins in an avocado. So let's move over to the meat department. When you're buying fish and meat, what do you look for there? And, do you cook lean meats, or does it, matter, especially,
So within the meat category, you can use beef, but I like to use leaner cuts. And so I find myself using a lot of sirloin or from the top butt section. You can trim. That has a lot of external fat, so you could trim the caps and such. But internally, it's fairly lean. And the muscle doesn't move a ton. So when you cook it, it's going to be fairly tender when you cook it and cut it against the grain, of course. If I use pork, I use pork tenderloin or pork loin. There's not a lot of intermuscular fat within there, so it's going to be fairly lean as well. Fish, shrimp are great. If you can get Gulf shrimp, that's the best.
Why is that?
Because it's going to be from the Gulf closer by, and Gulf shrimp have a tendency to be sweeter.
Okay.
And then I like firm fish. People like to eat salmon, but personally, not my favorite, but I do cook it quite a bit. But I like firm whitefish, mahi-mahi, cod, haddock, halibut, all good fish. Grouper, if you can get it. I mean, it's local, but, it's really good for you. And I'm a fan of ahi tuna, but I like to.
Ahi. Yeah, ahi's great because you can have it sushi-like, and you can also cook it, and you can barbecue it. So yeah, there's always ahi in my house. So when it comes to things like beans, because I'm sure you cook with a lot of beans and legumes at home, do you take, let's say for example, lentils out of the bag, and do you cook them or pressure cook them, or do you take them out of the can, or is it just depend on if you have it always in the kitchen, or depends?
I mean, so for me, it's always out of the bag, because you can control what you put in it. For those who are, in a crunch, canned is okay. You just got to watch. There's a lot of preservatives and sodium content in there that you're not necessarily going to put if you cook it yourself. I'm not a pressure cooker guy or, Instapot. It's not my thing. I'm old school. I take a pot of water. I infuse a lot of herbs, a lot of citrus. That's where I base. That's a lot of foundational cooking I use for healthy cooking. And I'll cook it in something like that. I love cooking. My spice cabinet is loaded.
Oh, I can imagine.
Loaded.
Are there different spices in for your family? Are the ratios of people who like spice, which I'm sure you're way up there, to people who don't like it at all, which is kind of me. So
don't confuse what I say with the spice. Spice is not going to be from a
Heat, yeah.
heat. It doesn't come from a heat component necessarily. Spices is a wide term that's generally misunderstood and narrowed into cayenne pepper, black pepper. No, it's not. That's not what I refer to. I refer to a lot of umami flavored ingredients. I use mushroom powder. I use cumin. I use turmeric. I use different curries, and it's going to be more sweet curries, and so coriander, things of that nature. Of course, you have your thyme, oregano. Those are all spices.
And the spices, I know, can really help offset sodium or salt because it's a different type of flavor, but all those beautiful herbs and spices really can help, especially if you're, sodium sensitive.
And when you take that, and that's the goal, is one of the things is to reduce sodium, is to combine these spice elements. And then you take a citrus or vinegars, components, acids.
Yeah,
acids. What they do is acids bring out the flavor. They enhance. So you take your spice and then you take your acid component and you combine it. You don't need as much sodium. You can use some, but I use as little as 10% ratio in my spices compared to when people are cooking. You're using probably another 45% more. So you can reduce the sodium content in what you cook just by foundationally using a lot of these spices that have a lot of flavor, and then you enhance it. And once you combine them, it's like a superpower combination. You're just unlocking more flavors that you never thought that you could bring to the forefront of your dishes.
Okay, so did you hear that, everyone? Lots of spices in the cabinet. I'm a big spice girl too. And like you said before, heat is different than spice because I love garlic or wasabi, which is hot. It's just the cayennes and stuff I definitely have to stay away from.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to test you now. Let's say most people go through a day and they have to eat. So in the morning, for example, tea or coffee, or does it matter? Is it the creamer? What's that all about?
So, it depends. One of the things with teas and coffees that they have in common is that caffeine. So if you're not caffeine sensitive, then you're okay. Caffeine will affect your sleep. So therefore, what it does is that will make you, that will affect your blood sugar spikes as well.
Oh, okay. So throughout the day?
Because what it does is caffeine will create cravings. So you have to watch how much, it's different for everyone.
Right.
It's not across the board. So like myself, I'm not sensitive to caffeine at all because being half Puerto Rican, we start drinking coffee at about 4 or 5 years old.
I was going to say, right? 4 or 5 years old.
And it's not weak. It's not coffee for the meek or the weak. It's strong. It kicks you in the...
but you're used to it then, I would imagine. I mean, maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, to a degree.
Yeah.
It still does affect me a little bit. But that being said, it's just like anything. It's what you put into it. The salads, the dressings, the sugar and the cream for your teas and coffees are going to be, you can use alternatives. And we use a lot of oat milk at the house because we're lactose sensitive, things like that. And you can use sugar substitutes, but I wouldn't go too crazy. I like to use a lot of agave because agave has a tendency to be less absorbent into the bloodstream, which once again is all about those blood sugar spikes.
Okay, so let's say you do like to eat breakfast. Let's move on to breakfast a little bit. Would you eat egg whites instead of yolks? Would you eat poached instead of fried? Is that eat this, not that? Is that the whole concept? If you're going to, obviously eggs and butter is amazingly wonderful, but poached is better for you. So is that kind of what you would recommend?
So we do a lot of poached eggs. I love egg yolk. So the one thing that I'll do sometimes is I'll use whole eggs and then maybe pull out a yolk or two because of the cholesterol levels. But most of the time we just eat. I eat a lot of boiled eggs. I like because those are easy to
That's a
do
lot
ahead of
protein
time
too. Yeah.
and pack, and then you can use them throughout the week for 3 or 4 days. And so that's a boiled egg goes a long way, and it makes you feel full, gives you a sense of fullness. I love oatmeal. I love oatmeal as well. Oatmeal is one of my go-tos. And you can make oatmeal, and even if you're okay with it, you can reheat it if you need to out of convenience, because that's what our world has pretty much come to.
We're busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 family households, both moms and dads working, a bunch of kids, going back and forth to different schools. Yeah. So
Right.
convenience is a big deal in our society. So oatmeal is something I love, and I like to add, of course, fruit and nuts to my oatmeal to give it flavor and texture. Those going back to those ripe bananas, for sweetness.
Right. It's natural fructose rather than
and
sugar.
a little bit of maple syrup. I like maple syrup as well.
Okay, well, let's move on to lunch then, because I bring my lunch every day to work, and a lot of people go out for lunch, which is so yummy. And I love restaurants, so no offense, but if you are kind of in the nutrition vein, bringing your lunch is probably better than going out. So what's the difference? And you were saying like salad dressings have sugar and other ingredients. What's a great thing to bring for lunch every day if you can?
So I'm gonna throw you a curveball, because I know everybody here is gonna sit there and say, I eat a salad for lunch, and that's great. So I'm gonna throw out a scenario, because this is what happens. And in other countries, they do this as well. Why do we eat salads? Why are we training our bodies and our minds, mainly, because that's where it is, it's psychological. Why are we eating salads every day at midday? We should be eating our heaviest meal at midday. And why is that? Because if it's, say, 12 o'clock, we'll just say 12 o'clock, you go to, and say you wake up at 7 o'clock, you go to bed at 9 o'clock.
Right.
You would want to load your carbs earlier in the day to give you sustainable energy throughout the day, to control those blood sugar spikes when you eat the right composition meal. And also, it gives you an opportunity to burn those carbs throughout the day. Instead of eating it at 6 or 7, say 6 o'clock and going to bed at 9 o'clock.
Right.
So now you got 3 hours. You eat that meal with your protein, your carbohydrate, your vegetable. You should be eating that salad at night, because salad is composed of what?
Water.
Mostly water.
Yeah.
And where people do wrong is they get extra dressing. I've seen it being a chef for many years. And
Dressing on the side and extra.
Yeah, counting the grams of fat in every ounce of dressing in those cups that we furnished. So why are we doing this? So I think that. So
let's flip it. Let's flip the script.
Why not?
Louis?
Why not?
So let's say you're going to do that. We're going to listen to you. What is the great composition meal for lunch? Let's say we're going to do your perfect lunch and then dinner. I love salad, so I'll have that for dinner. But what about lunch?
So I love rice and pasta as well, but rice. So say you take something simple, some ground turkey, and you spice it up. You brown it off. And then you put that over a bed of brown rice. And I say a bed, meaning you want to go maybe half to 3/4 of a cup of cooked brown rice. And then you want to pair that with a vegetable or vegetable medley, your favorite. Just do what you like.
Steamed or sauteed?
So I'm going to tell you what works for me great. And you could do it in bulk. Sheet pan, parchment paper, so you don't have a lot of cleanup. Once again, because we're busy.
Right.
We're busy.
Absolutely.
Olive oil in a spray bottle, so you can spritz the vegetables. Ooh. So that gives you some flavor, also creates texture, and put it in your oven set at 450 to 475 degrees. Bite-sized pieces of vegetables.
So anything, eggplant, broccoli, green beans.
Zucchini, squash, carrots, right? And cook them till they're just about tender. Now, I like my vegetables al dente.
Yeah, same.
Al dente, firm to the tooth. So that what you're doing is you're creating texture. You're also holding on to a lot of the nutritional value of the vegetables and the flavors. You're not, I don't do mushy. Sorry. Apologize
No,
to
no,
everyone
no,
out there.
that's
I don't
fine.
do mushy
Fine by me.
vegetables. My mom grew up on canned vegetables, canned green beans. I remember those. We don't
They're like
keep
wax.
those at my house. My address does not have canned vegetables. So you learn from what you know, and that's what's happened. And that will give you a nice vegetable medley. And you can do it in a sheet pan format because you can do multiple meals on a sheet pan. So
love
once
that.
again, that convenience factor.
Love it. Okay, well, we just got through a normal day. When we come back, we're going to talk about going out to dinner and surviving the holidays. More with Chef Louis when we come back. Don't go anywhere.
Are you ready for your future to take flight? Whether you're graduating high school or looking to level up, Lake Sumter State College offers affordable degrees and certificates that will punch your ticket to success in a rewarding career. Plus, with programs like Direct Connect to UCF, your opportunities with LSSC are endless. So, what are you waiting for? Join us in Leesburg, Claremont, Sumterville, Four Corners, or online. Learn more at lssc.edu.
Hey everyone, welcome back. We're still here with Chef Louis, and we're going to talk a little bit about going out to dinner with your friends. Let's say there's so many wonderful places to go. There's Italian with pasta, there's steakhouses, there's Mexican cuisine, there's Caribbean cuisine. So if you go out and you're kind of watching things and you're with a bunch of people who are just boozing it up and eating everything on, how can you focus and sort of tweak what you order and still stay there and have fun?
So first of all, let's talk about the beverage. Water is great, but in order to be involved, I understand you want to go with wine, and red wine is low glycemic. It has less sugar. So if you do anything and you're going to have a glass, moderation is best of anything you do in life. And that's what I would recommend is a glass of red wine.
Okay.
Because of the sugar content. Then also, most restaurants don't have healthy alternatives. But what you can do is you can look at some of their sides and construct your own by ordering a la carte. You can order a grilled piece of chicken. They'll have that available. A grilled piece of steak. If they have leaner cuts, stay away from, of course, the ribeye,
which is so good, but not doing it today.
And then you can order sides. You can order grains, sides of rice, maybe sides of beans. Stay away from the refried beans, of course, at the Mexican restaurant.
Okay.
But things of that nature, you can look at it and make healthy judgments. If you order a salad, of course, get the dressing on the side all the time because they're always overdressed. But if you can help yourself and you've trained your mind and your palate, maybe you could do vinegar and oil, so you can control how much oil you actually put in. The vinegar is going to be free.
Yeah, the vinegar's a freebie.
The vinegar's free.
Okay, then we're getting toward the holidays, and here's another one. Let's say you're going to, there's two scenarios. One, you're going to your relative's house, and they have all the turkey and dressing and everything. First of all, how do you load your plate? Probably not marshmallows on the yams, I would imagine.
Why not? That's my favorite.
And then also, if you were making a holiday meal, would you do the same, or how would you do that?
So when you're at someone's house, construct it with the protein first. Try go for the white meat turkey. Try to stay away from the gravy. Gravy's loaded with fat.
I know.
Yes, and carbs.
White meat is it's yummy, but a little dry.
The green beans are pretty good. The sweet potatoes are good as long as they're not loaded with too much sugar. But just think about it like this. Start with protein first, and moderation is key. We can't harp on it anymore.
Right.
Julia Child said it when I was growing up. The French people eat rich food, but the way they stay skinny in France is that they eat in moderation. So
that's true. And also everyone walks everywhere, but that's for another show. So our last question here then is, let's talk about our obsession with calorie counts. Talk about your philosophy and how we can get through that.
So the first things first, what we need to talk about is be honest with yourself and tell yourself, what is my true activity level? What type of things am I doing to burn calories? That includes your lifestyle with your children, your work, after work, when you come home, things like that. So then you have to see, and you could look this up. This stuff is all accessed through the internet. What, for my lifestyle, for my body type, my weight and age, what calories do I need to sustain? And then create a deficit where you take off
What does that mean? Yeah.
So you want to take off anywhere from 200 to 500 calories from that sustained lifestyle calorie count off. And that's how you create a deficit. A healthy weight loss is 1 to 2 pounds per week. So if you're losing 5-6 pounds a week, that's okay, but it's not sustainable over the long haul. We deal with lifestyle changes. For instance, people gain weight, but they gain weight over years' time. So that's the same type of mindset you need to have when you're trying to lose it.
So you want to mirror that exactly,
Yes.
how you got up there, and then over a period of time to lose.
And one physical
and sustain. Of
Yeah,
course.
right. It's got to be sustainable because once you're done, you'll just go back to where you were if you don't do something. And you got to do something that's easy for you. That's easy for you to adapt to, because if it's not, you're not going to be consistent with it, and it's not going to be something you can do over the long haul. And the one thing we always preach at the spa is lifting weights, especially women.
Yeah.
Because
Strength training.
Increase your muscle composition, because when you do that, your muscle repairing at night while you're sleeping is an amazing thing.
It's a miracle. That's awesome. Well, Chef Louis, as always, it's a pleasure to be with you here today. Where can people get a hold of you?
So I'm located in Leesburg at Azel's Beauty Med Spa with my wife, Danielle, who's the nurse injector there. Amazing individual who has amazing results with a lot of different people. And it's at 3006 Professional Drive, Suite 2. Located across from the Leesburg Airport.
And what about the interwebs? Can we get a hold of you there? Is there a website for us?
I have a website as well. It's chefsconceptkitchen.com.
chefsconceptkitchen.com.
Yeah.
Okay, and of course, you're always in Healthy Living Magazine every single quarter with your wonderful recipes, which I love and can't wait to try. Chef Louis, thanks again so much. Next time you come back, we're gonna maybe have a little recipe, maybe a little cooking. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe we could do a cooking demo.
That would be amazing.
All right.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks once again for joining us on the Healthy Living Podcast. We'll see you next time.